Hey everybody, it's Kyle from Young Legends Street Hockey. This is podcast number 6. Today I'm joined by an incredibly special guest for me. This is our connection finally with the home and the hub of street hockey of Leominster Dek Hockey. Today I am get the opportunity to speak with Bobby Housser. For those of you who don't know Bobby, he is probably the all-time most decorated USA street hockey player of all time. He's played on 11 to 12 national teams for our country, which is a tremendous accomplishment. He grew up in Leominster. His dad is one of the founders of Leominster Dek Hockey, but today it's about him. He went to Worcester. Is it Worcester State or Worcester College?
Yeah.
Worcester State.
Worcester State.
Spent some time there. He played college hockey there, but his career has really been in the world of ball and deck hockey. He's recently come back from China where he was helped growing the game. And there's not much this guy needs for an introduction for people that are in the ball hockey world. There's not much he hasn't accomplished yet. But I do know that his goals are going to be even greater to get this game going. So thank you, Bobby, for joining me today.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So what have you been up to during the quarantine right now?
A lot of tennis. That's the only vice I have. But golf course is just open, so I play a lot of golf now too.
Yeah. Is there a do you play with a lot of other ball hockey players when you're golfing, or is it just sort of you and family?
It'll be whoever. Friends, family, anybody. Anybody who wants to get out and do anything.
Yeah, I read an article this morning that said that I think it was on 98.5 The Sports Hub. They were saying that within once golf course restrictions opened up, like the phone lines were flooding for tee times. So
you have to call ahead now.
Yeah, I won't be playing much with right now. I have little girls, so
yeah,
the golf game has basically gone downhill. But that's for another day. So home now. Tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Leominster. Dad running the organization, but tell us a little bit about what sports you played and how you really got into the game, even though you were kind of born into it.
I was literally born into it, but my parents luckily wanted me to play almost every sport. So I played the baseball up until I was 13, 14, and then deck hockey, ice hockey, tennis, golf, whatever they can get me in, they got me in.
Was hockey your favorite sport growing up?
Yeah. I love hockey.
Hockey was
yeah, that was it. We're a hockey family.
At what point did you start skating and playing ice hockey?
4, I think, 4 or 5. Yeah, I think that's about right.
When you were in ice hockey, was there a time in your point in your career where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go officially just a deck and ball, or was it like, I want to play in the NHL?
The funny thing is I was never really good at hockey up until I was like 17. Like I was like mediocre at best on whatever team I was on. But say when I was 17, I sort of grew into myself and I was able to understand the game more just from I watched a lot of Detroit Red Wings when they were on their dynasty run. So I just took like bits and pieces of them to become a smarter player, and then sort of carved out a decent ice hockey career. But I think I was always going to be a ball hockey guy in the end because, it's one in a go to the NHL. So
yeah, right. Me too. I predominantly played, ice hockey growing up because in Gloucester, Mass, there's not up until Young Legends came along in 2004, we'd never had a rink. The local Y's had floor hockey, but it's really predominantly a lot of ice hockey. I mean, With that said, what's the ice hockey program like in Leominster? Is it pretty strong?
It was. I don't know so much anymore because I feel like over the past 10 years, it's primarily all junior based or private all-star teams. But when I was in my senior year, high school hockey was still really big. Like you were either good enough to play high school or you'd play for the junior Bruins or the junior Huskies, I believe. Those were the two exceptional teams. But now there's like 500 junior teams. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's still very popular in this area, I'd say.
That it for sure. I mean, my playing careers. I remember playing against the Dual State Huskies. I was with the
Yeah.
Valley Warriors at the time, and then I played Metro, and
Yeah.
now there's a million. Seems like there's a million select teams that kids can play. But speaking of that, when as you and I have chatted a little bit, we're trying to get a rink built in Gloucester, and when we were pitching the rink idea to the city council, Leominster, of course, was brought up. And
Okay.
they're like, do you guys want to have rinks like Leominster? And I was like, of course, that's ideally what we want to do.
Yeah.
But I remember the very first time that I went by Leominster, the Leominster Deck Center, I was a 8th grader at Austin Prep. And is it St. Bernard's that's in Fitchburg? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They were a good ice hockey program for a lot of years. I don't even know if they have an ice hockey program anymore, but they
Yeah.
were uh, they were one of the dominant teams around this area.
We were going out to play them at the stadium, the place in Fitchburg. I can't remember the name of that rink, but I remember being on the school bus, and we're on Route 2, and we go right by this rink, and I did a double take, and I'm like, I'm literally doing it now because I remember it being on the right side, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what is that place? What is that place? So every time we go Route 2, I was always like, what is that place? I got to stop there. And come to find out, that's really the home of street hockey. So
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. So what was it like, growing up in that environment? And even today, would you say ball hockey, deck hockey's stronger now than ice hockey in Leominster?
Uh, Players wise, we probably have more deck hockey players than ice hockey players in the city of Leominster, just because it's cheap and affordable. So ice hockey, where it's expensive, only so many can play. But like if you have a kid that's like loves baseball, loves basketball, but they also want to try hockey, the easy vice is just to play deck hockey for a few years and let them have their fun.
That makes sense. I think that's what we're hoping for in Gloucester too someday, is that kids that don't get the chance to play ice hockey can play deck hockey and play ball hockey, so that they can at least get experience for the game.
Yeah.
Um, I've got a chance to listen to you. You were on the NHL network with Johnny Ruiz and Ryan Whitney.
Yeah.
Ryan and I played on the Massachusetts development team together. We're the same age.
Oh,
Um,
look at that.
yeah, and we, he played on the South Shore Kings. I was on the Islanders. They were a phenomenal team. But I was so excited to see you guys on there. What was it like being in that setting where the NHL network's coming to talk to you guys?
It was very cool. Daniel Caldwell and Corey Hersha actually set the whole thing up. But when I got there, like I was feeling, like my regular self, but like they didn't really like prep us with any of the questions, so we just went in blind. So like the first minute, I was nervous as I can't really swear, but I was pretty nervous. But after that, it was cool. It was fun. Ryan Whitney and EJ Hradek were awesome, and it was just a fun experience overall.
That was great. My dad referenced that. That's how he knew you was from that interview. Uh,
Yeah, it's very cool.
yeah, and like I said, did you feel like that brought more attention to the sport after that interview?
Yeah, it does, because even though it only airs in, I think it was like a 10-minute segment or something, but a lot of people see it, and then word spreads, and then you're just hopeful that someone's like, oh wow, this sport's awesome. Let's try and get a rink here, try to get a rink there, or let's just get into the sport somehow.
Yeah, it's amazing because we didn't realize how big the game was until we decided that we needed to move forward and get a rink built. And then I went to the Milet Cup just to see their rinks, and went out there, and I was blown away. I'm like, I couldn't believe how big this game is. Next thing you know, I'm watching your guys' tournaments on YouTube for the ISBHF. So it's been it's amazing how big. And recently, I think it was USA Ball Hockey that put out a video that has like the guys with the drums. There's like 9,000 people at the championship game. Is that right? I,
Yeah, I think it was probably either Switzerland or Czech or I mean, like in Europe, like they just if there's a world tournament, then their entire country will back them. So when you're playing in Switzerland or Czech or Slovakia, they're gonna have 6,000-7,000 fans at their games. So they make sure that their ceremonies are all on point, and it's pretty cool because like for a week you're like a superstar,
yeah,
and it's just a lot of fun.
that's awesome. You've
Yeah.
been to 11 to 12 of these events, so well seasoned. Um, One of the things that I've been really dying to ask you is, you had mentioned, 17 is where you feel like you were starting to reach your stride in the game of hockey. What would you say is sort of the progression of a ball hockey player or ice hockey player up to that national level where you're competing at? What sort of advice do you have for those players?
Play as much as you can, have as much fun as you can, practice as much as you can. It's not rocket science to become a good player. It's just a matter of dedication and heart, obviously. Problem that you see with some of the kids that are very good from the ages of probably 14 to 18 is that they'll start taking it less serious, which is fair because they're teenagers. Um, but then they'll turn 21 or 22, and then their ice hockey career will be over, and they'll want to get back into ball hockey. But the players that really stick into the sport from the ages of 14 to 18, and they stay committed, they stay dedicated, those are the players that will eventually succeed into a nice little ball hockey career.
Why do you think that is? Your college ice hockey career has come to an end, and then you try to get back into ball hockey. What sort of makes those people not so successful?
It's because there's so most like even like a lot of my friends like they'll take ice hockey serious, which is fair because ice hockey trumps ball hockey any day of the week. But there's no serious hockey after that. So when you're out of ice hockey, then they have beer league, where in ball hockey we still have 4 or 5 Series A tournaments, and for people to want to play highly competitive hockey, ball hockey or deck hockey is the way to go.
Gotcha. When it comes to the youth athletes that are taking it pretty seriously, can you talk a little bit about a house program versus a travel team, and sort of what that difference of level is?
Yeah, house programs are more just recreational. Anyone can play. So you want to make sure that every kid's getting the same amount of playing time, making sure that they're learning. That's the biggest key when it's house leagues. You want to make sure that all the kids are learning at all times. And travel programs is more serious, where practices are harder. You're learning more. You're playing more. And playing time's not always key because it's about winning a championship at that point.
Gotcha. Would you say that the most serious ball hockey players are doing both? They're playing house and travel?
Yeah, for sure. Some of them, the parents only do travel ball hockey, and then
Okay.
'cause their kids are playing ice hockey all year round. But for the most part, they play both.
That's really interesting, because that's pretty much the equivalent to you and me playing ice hockey, playing for a town, and then playing for a select team, and very similar. Um, with that said, because did you play on a lot of travel teams growing up, or did you just sort of stick with the house program?
I played travel. I did both. House and then whatever travel team I was on as a kid, and then when I got older, I just formed my own team.
When it One of the things that you mentioned, the A level, is it cool hockey events? Is that the
That's us. They run the North Americans.
okay? They did that. They recently did the video game version of you guys.
Oh yeah, Rams won.
The Rams one. Okay, you guys. I think I saw you as one of the leading scorers too, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool. Can you? So in Gloucester, we just formed an adult group. that is looking to get in. I had mentioned to you offline the Shamrock Shootout and Drake It and all that. But can you talk a little bit about the A division and the teams? Like there's the Leominster Rams. I believe there's the Americans. Then you have the Pittsburgh Gods, and then New Jersey's kind of loaded with teams. But
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about sort of that level and that competition and what it's like to play in that level?
Yeah, I mean it's hard. You have to be in shape because when you're out of shape, it's very noticeable because you're obviously running a lot. There's a lot of good teams. Here, the top two teams are the Americans and the Saints. Um, and then you have Nationals Can-Ams, the U.S. Outdoor Tournament, which is in Fitchburg, Harrisburg, Cool Hockey. So there's five major A tournaments in America, right? Oh, Pittsburgh too. I think it has an A tournament. It's intense, like especially in like the Leominster tournaments, because you have the Americans, you have the Saints, you have us, and we all kind of just like hate each other. Obviously we're friends, but like it's just this weird like thing where we all want to be the best in our hometown. So the games pick up for sure in those tournaments.
When you say the Saints, is that the Boston or Bauer Saints?
I think Bauer Saints or Boston Saints, but same team.
Okay. There. How do you how do you guys pick if you're going to be on the Rams or the Americans? Is there a process to that?
For up until 6 years ago, Rams were always there was times where Leominster, but Rams have primarily been the dominant A team. And then as our run was ending, I think around 2014, 2015, all the Americans came of age, so we didn't really have a chance to like try and pick them off little by little, so they can't form their whole team. So we're kind of just rebuilding, but we have a lot of good young players now too. And the Americans are all in their prime, and they're just way too fast, way too skilled right now. But we'll see what happens when we play them again. I'm not scared of them.
So I believe you guys were hosting a national event this coming June. Has that been postponed? And what tournament was that?
That is the U.S. Nationals, and it's still up for discussion if we're going to move it or not. It comes down to whatever Governor Baker wants to do, really. So we can't really. I would say that it's more likely to be moved than to stay on that date, just because, right now we have Quebec teams that come down. They're probably not going to be able to come. Jersey, so nobody knows their travel situation.
That's been the hardest part, travel, quarantines, and it's just disrupting all parts of our life. But it is what it is. With that said, is that primarily the adult nationals, or is that youth as well?
That is the men's A, women's A, B, and men's novice in that weekend.
Very good. Do you guys practice as a team a couple times a week? What's sort of the team schedule?
With the Rams, about a month before the tournament, we'll start practicing. We play in 3 or 4 tournaments a year, so it's just. But we're all playing in the house league, so we all stay in shape and all that. And then just to familiarize each other, we just run a few practices before each tournament.
Now, Bobby, is there a coach? Is there a player coach? How do you guys manage your team?
We have Rams have like sort of like we're kind of like a cult where we have like my dad's like the leader, and then like there's like 4 other people, and they all get together, and then they all just sort of try and plug in the holes right now to see who we can take to make our team better, find out who's not playing. But we've really had the same team probably for the past 3 years, which is nice because we were going through a little bit of a rough patch for a couple years.
Awesome. That's so cool in a lot of sense. What people don't realize about this game is that you develop such great friendships, and the team that we have that we put together, these guys, it's really interesting for me because I'm 36 years old now. I'd love to be playing, but we have our own tournament it's like an Ironman, Bobby, where you have six, seven guys, and you play a 12-minute game. And we play all, and actually it's been a fundraiser for us for the rink. But my brother and I, by day two, we're like, man, we're just dead. It's just a grind. But with this team that we've created, the Legends team, a lot of these guys grew up playing and competing against each other in our program. And now, these rivalries that have formed and have persisted over the years, now they're coming together as one unit to see if we can compete outside of our hometown. So I'm really excited to see it, how these guys do. But like I said, we'll see how close we are to you guys. Probably not even there yet, but
you never know.
I'm still excited for these guys. We'll see. I have a lot of faith in them. But again, we need to play in a tournament first, and the Shamrock was our first. So I believe in them. But anyway, are you still working out pretty heavily? Do you have a workout routine?
I try and stay active by like playing any sort of sport. I don't really lift too much, but I'll ride the bike around 20 minutes a day, or I'll play tennis for an hour a day, or I'll just shoot around for like an hour here or there, just to keep me going in some sort of routine.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you mentioned this is tennis twice. Has tennis always been a favorite pastime of yours?
Yeah, I love tennis. It's my it's probably right below hockey for me as my next favorite sport.
Who do you play with? Buddies?
Everybody. Friends, whoever. It's just it's a good sport, especially for if you're like into ball hockey like me, because your feet are always active. You're going side to side, you're working on your footwork. So
absolutely, that ability to go side to side is so crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely. By the way, what position do you play?
Center, wing, or D. Depends on what the team needs. International events, I'm generally center or wing.
Yeah. With the national with the national events, can you talk a little bit about? We noticed this when we have our Ironman tournament in the summer. We play at the Gloucester rink, which is a full 200 by, I think it's 200 by 80. I wouldn't quote me on I know it's 200 feet.
Yeah.
Net to net. But can you talk a little bit about the endurance piece of being able to run, 200 feet? I mean, that's a big jump for a lot of people. And we actually cut it to about 170 probably is what we're playing in. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's just ball controls pretty much everything in like on big rinks, because you don't want to dump the ball and then chase it, because you just waste so much energy. So you try and slowly bring the ball up the rink and hopefully get a scoring opportunity, and then after that, changing.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite national event memory?
Probably 2006 we won the gold medal, or in 2009 we went up with 2009 was like the weirdest thing in the world, because Mark Madden, who's been huge for the sport for years and years, and he's like the main radio guy in Pittsburgh right now. He organized our team for 2009, but it fell apart because nobody was like committing. Like they'd say they'd be in, but they wouldn't commit. But we eventually we just went with we had 15 guys, which is not enough, and none of us knew each other, and it was sort of like a last minute get together. And so we started the tournament in the B pool, because Team USA was never really organized before then. Or not before then, but last tournament it fell apart again. So that all happens. We eventually go there. So Mark Madden was just in it. He had the right to do it too, because he invested so much time and money. He was just like, hey, if you guys aren't going to commit, then I'm going to get out of here. So he just so then my dad came, and we eventually paid for all the flights, and he paid for all the flights on his credit card just so we can get a team there. But it was a complete mess. And we get there, and we start in the B pool, and eventually we run through the B pool, and we have a playing game to get into the A pool. We win that game. I think it was against Switzerland. We beat them 4 or 5-1. and so this is 2009, so we're all a bunch of 20-year-olds, and we're playing against Canada. Canada was the 3 or 4 time defending champ at the time, and we didn't have a prayer at beating them because it was there's a team called Red Light up in Canada, and they were dominating. It's Alex Burrows' former team and all them. So they were primarily red light guys, but they were nearing the end of their prime, and we're coming into our prime. So we had nothing to lose. And we're playing in the game, and I think in our heads we all thought we were going to lose the game 7 or 8-1. And we eventually, Steve Gregory scored the overtime goal, and we knocked them out. And that's probably the best moment.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you see a lot of NHL players coming and trying to play at a high level of ball hockey other than Burrows?
Some of them do. I know Danik Martel, I think he's a bubble player, or maybe he's in the NHL right now. I don't really know, but he's a very good ball hockey player, and he's played for a long time. I think a lot of the NHL players do play ball hockey in the off season, but they don't play competitively because they don't want to get hurt. They just want to jog around and play hockey for a bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. I remember on the NHL one, you were talking about the time your dad had to play with you guys.
Yeah, that was in 2007. That was another. So someone else ran the team, and then it literally just fell apart. And then I think a week before, my dad was like, "You want to go to Germany?" And I was just like, "Yeah." I was 18 at the time, so I was like, "Absolutely."
That's cool. That's really cool.
And my dad led the tournament in scoring, which was, you're just like, what the 54 years old, he has 14 points.
That's impressive. Yeah. Now when I got a chance to come out and visit you guys. You were probably in China at the time, Bobby. I came right before the pandemic hit. I met with John Stamos of MS3, obviously, and I'll tell you, when I walked into the building, I saw your dad's office off to the right, and John and I were having a conversation about the tile because you guys are obviously in the running for, putting our tile down. And when I got home, I called my dad and I said, "Yeah, I got a tile for you to see." And I was telling him, I'm like, I felt like I made a pilgrimage to the world of, street hockey. It was really such a cool experience. But even just the way you guys have it set up, you have the 2 rinks on the side. You can watch both games. It's in a lot of ways, I hope someday that Gloucester could get to that level. But it was a great experience, and I could just feel like I was going through a little bit of history while I was in there. So I don't know if your dad was around that day, but John and I had a great conversation anyway. So, but reason why I ask you about this is I believe there's jersey numbers retired on the rink. Is that on some of the rinks? Is that accurate?
Yeah. That's we have our own Hall of Fame where just great players of the past who deserve to be remembered in some sort of way. We try and honor them. I don't think people will ever understand how big the sport was in the 80s and early 90s. It was huge, and there's a lot of people that played, and even Patrick Waugh was at our rink in '93 playing out. So
awesome.
It's just a little ode to some of the greats that played in the past.
Was Phil Esposito there at one time in the 70s as well? Was he playing there in the 70s?
I think so. I think a lot of the old school Bruin guys would play in tournaments here and there. I know a bunch of, like I said earlier about Patrick Waugh, I know some of the Canadians formed a team and they would come down once a year to play in a tournament.
That's awesome. I mean, I've talked so highly about you guys and in this rink development project, and you guys have come up on many occasions with my conversations with our city officials, and I tell them, I'm like, when we look at the hub of street hockey in Massachusetts, it's Leominster. You got Fitchburg down the road, and then you got Milik, which is 20 minutes away, if that. Yep. You guys to me are the hub of street ball hockey, and there's such a tradition out there that, and people know of you guys in Leominster that I really, I don't even know where I'm going with the statement right now, but I just use you guys so many times as a model of what we could do. I mean, even from an economic standpoint, people coming from all over the world to come playing in a deck hockey tournament is pretty impressive. I think that's really what opened up the eyes of the city of Gloucester. You know, more revenue to the city if we could ever get
Yeah.
an event. You know, but like I said, I'm grateful that we're not very far from you. That we can come up and visit and check it out. Which, as I mentioned you know, off this time, that we've been invited to come out and hang out with you guys and check out how you guys run things. So thank you for that, by the way.
No problem.
With that said, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in China and how you're growing the game there and the plans moving forward.
China's it's a complicated country for sure. Uh, I I went over originally with the Chinese Olympic Committee. However, they weren't really ready to like release their project. So I was fortunate enough to meet some very nice people over there who helped me out, and another company called Lions Heart is starting to grow the game of ball hockey to promote ice hockey as a grassroots sport. So it's pretty much our job to get these schools, go into the schools, teach them a little bit about hockey, and then after that's done, you just hope that somebody bites and they're like, hey, let's put a rink here, let's get the program going and all that. So our project was really supposed to take off February 3rd, and then COVID hit like January 26th.
So you were there when this pandemic was occurring, and then did you get back fairly quickly?
Nope, I was there till the end of February, because nobody knew. Like, there wasn't much panic over there. It was just people would just say like, "Hey, just stay inside," and that would be the end of it. But we kept on, like, so we were there, and then like China was like, "Hey, we'll reopen again in a week or two," and then it was like, "Hey, we're gonna reopen in a month," and then eventually I was just like, "They're not gonna be reopening for a long time." So I came back, and then 2 weeks later, China reopened. So, but their schools and stuff are still shut down, so I wouldn't have anything to do anyways.
With the kids, did you feel like they were very receptive to the game?
Yeah, they love it. It's just something new for them, and um, the like the Chinese ways and like how their kids are, they're just like the best, and they're really respectful, and because you're an expat, they'll listen, they'll try their best, and it was a lot of fun teaching them the few times that I actually did have a chance to.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I noticed that there are more people are playing street ball, deck hockey in parts of the world that you wouldn't even expect them to be. I mean, I think India has a team, or uh,
Yeah,
right. I mean, it's places like that. But again, it speaks to the sport itself, though, where all you need is a stick, ball, and net, and it's and you don't need ice. You don't need
yeah.
a cold climate. So, um, where where do you think we should be focusing on growing the game of hockey,
For ball hockey,
for ball hockey? Yeah.
grassroots. I think more money should be invested in getting kids involved to play, rather than spending money on like high level. And I think there should be a spot for high level hockey,
Hmm.
ball hockey, but I think that there should be more focus on getting kids involved into playing, because even though there's an international tournament, which is awesome, if you're getting a new kid into playing, promoting that won't do much, because they'll just look at ice hockey and say, hey, I want to play in the NHL, which is perfectly fair. But ball hockey should be a grassroots program into getting kids into ice hockey, and there should be a side um, program for A tournaments, high competitive ball hockey. And if you run them how they should be ran, then they can both grow by like a lot.
That's a great point. I think in our position in Gloucester right now, the situation is we tend to run our program on the idea that we get a lot of ice hockey players that are looking to come in the summer, compete, have fun, play with their buddies, try to win a championship, and then in the fall go back to ice hockey.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that our goal will always be, I can't stress this enough, to create, like you said, a grassroots program in which anybody can come, especially when the rink is built, Bobby. Anybody can come play at Young Legend Street Hockey, have fun with the game, learn the game, even if you've never played before, just come and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there are kids that are really interested in trying to get to the level that you're competing on, maybe representing their country, then maybe we can have a travel select group of kids that go out to Leominster and compete in a tournament there or at Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? I think you hit it
Yeah.
in the head. And the one thing that I believe will change as time goes on is that a lot of our ice hockey players use our program as a way to hone skills in the off season, and stick handling ability, things like that. But we may get kids that are like, I don't have to play ice hockey. I can go play ball hockey and have a somewhat of a nice career with this too, So I think we're right at the beginning of what you're talking about. To be
Yeah.
so, I love that answer. With that said, are you planning on playing in the National Ball Hockey League?
If I'm around, I'll probably hop on a team. I don't really know much about it. I read about it online a little bit, but it depends on when I'm going back to China or um yeah. I mean, I'd probably play.
Are you excited for a league like that?
Yeah, if it's ran well, it'll be a fun league. I just like playing, so anytime I can play, then I'll be good to go.
It's a special sport, I must say. After I did, I said this to my dad the other night. I got a chance to go to Drake it, and USA Ball Hockey was going to have that tournament in Buffalo in the next 2 weeks where they have the
Yeah.
Eddie Costa was the head coach, and I got a chance to go to tryout. And just recently, actually, Team Mass released their rosters on Facebook. And to be honest, Bobby, I'm like, man, I wish that, I was a kid, they had this stuff. It didn't,
Yeah.
especially in Gloucester, we didn't have this type of stuff. But I'm like, because I definitely would have tried out. You know what I mean? I definitely would have been the first
Yeah.
guy there. So the opportunity, the way the game has already grown is pretty spectacular. Do you have any idea when you might go back to China? I know it's probably a tough question.
If I do go back, I think it would be September.
September.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything's up in the air across the entire world right now, so I'm just kind of sitting back and doing nothing.
It's a tough
Yeah,
time.
I'd say probably around September if I do go back, that'd be the expected date for me to leave again.
Long term, Bobby, in our country here in the U.S. With the creation of the National Ball Hockey League and in the tournaments that we have already, do you anticipate the game growing so that maybe every state develops sort of a nice deck ball hockey program that you see it even maturing all the way up to adults? I mean,
Yeah.
what's your take on that?
I think I think right now the NHL is sort of realizing the importance of ball hockey. I think maybe not the NHL itself, but people involved in the NHL in the '80s sort of understood it, but roller hockey sort of wiped out a lot of the ball hockey areas. So, and then it kind of just like probably from like '98 to 2008, there wasn't really much growth. It was just sort of staying flat.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's grown a lot. I know the Penguins put up 4 rinks, Coyotes put up 4 rinks. You don't really need to do anything here because it's already big enough. Well, I guess the Bruins don't really need to do much here. But I see more NHL teams getting involved, which is good for the sport. I think what it comes down to though is like after like this, so the NHL teams will put down their rings. I think it would be important for just hiring just one person to manage those rinks rather than just letting them go
Yeah.
to the public. But it certainly is growing now, which is very good to see.
It is. And you mentioned roller hockey, and that's been a question that's been directed towards our organization quite a bit. Is will we be able to use rollerblades on this tile? And my answer has been yes. The biggest thing, though, I have not seen a huge roller hockey community in our state. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's barely played here.
Oh,
It's that sport's that's died down quite a lot, and it was huge when I was a kid growing up. Because I remember there was like it was like Rhode Island, Taunton, or wherever else. Acton had a league. I don't see any. I think what people realize about roller hockey, and this is just my opinion, is that it's identical to ice hockey. So you're not really getting anything new out of it. You're just on rollerblades instead of on ice skates. And I love roller hockey. I think it's lots of fun to play.
yeah.
But I don't know. It just seemed like all the rinks shut down when I was like 13, 14.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's something that I mean I'm not saying it won't pick up again. I have some of our people on our board love roller hockey, and I personally love it too. I mean I like any.
Yeah.
I actually prefer to be on rollerblades and playing ball hockey than I do on skates anymore. I think that's more of a burnout and my own issue, but
Yeah.
let's not get into that today. But you know, it's something that I think it's surprising. I know I lived in Philadelphia for a little while, and I played roller hockey every Saturday morning, almost every Saturday morning, and then after your Saturday morning skate, the ball hockey players come right out, take right over. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
remember telling Corey Hurst this. I was like, wait, these guys are gonna run the full distance? Like it was just like such a cool experience. But and I've had conversations with Milik about it, and they've told me the same thing. It doesn't seem to be a huge draw roller hockey right now. I mean, like you said, that can change, but
Yeah.
anyway, to sort of, I always like asking this. I've been, trying to get an idea of how you think. You're obviously a successful guy. What do you, what do you do during times of adversity? Whether you're in a game where things are going bad, how do you get yourself out of those funks of adversity and get better?
I love it actually. I like obviously you never want to be down by a goal or two in a game or you don't want like things not going your way. But I feel like whenever you're down in a game, like you're just motivated more for a comeback. That's easy for me. Or if like the refs suck, which they pretty much do everywhere. So they're just kidding.
It's okay.
If when you're in those kind of games where things aren't going your way, then you just get more fired up easily. Like I look forward to a challenge rather than like an easy game or an easy win.
That challenge piece is I think what makes a lot of successful people. They're willing to accept that challenge. Um, is I know you were in China for a little while, but uh, do you feel like, and this might not be a very good question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, that these kids in China were more resilient than players back here, or it's just sort of even across the board?
Uh, I feel like so in China you have ice hockey, which is primarily for wealthy parents. It's like I don't know, like horse racing here. I don't know what a rich sport is here, but like it's very like the ice hockey community is like pretty much all successful parents. But ball hockey is just to get the entire country to know what ice hockey is.
Yeah.
So I think they do. I think it's just human nature that everybody wants to try something new or they want to learn about something new. So I think most of the kids were into hockey, and especially because they've never heard it before. Like I remember my first one of the first demos I had to do. I went in with my like little game plan, and I just threw it out the window in the first minute because I had to teach them how to hold a stick for 25 minutes. But once they get that down, they're like every other kid. There's no difference.
Just
They want to hit the ball around, score on the net.
I know I've done that. that's a sign of a great coach, because I've had times where we have our skill sessions, and I'll have a beautiful, what I think is a beautiful practice plan, and then
Yeah.
kids are out there, and I'm like, this flow drill is not going
Yeah.
to work.
See you
So
later.
I hear you for sure on that. Going back, sort of, I'll be following you guys if you do go back to China. Regardless, I'm always fascinated with how the game is growing. And sticking on that topic, what's your take on the Olympics? And I know you had mentioned the Chinese Olympic group, but what's your take on the Olympics? And ideally, do you see that in our near future, or is it further out?
I see it. I see it in the future. I think it's really far out. I've never really looked into how the Olympics work. I know they have to do some trial period or something like that. But I think the more countries we get involved, the better chance it'll happen. But the Olympics are expensive too. I think it's, I could be like 100% wrong in here, but I think it's like $200 million to get like a sport in there or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like I don't even know how it works, but I don't really focus. I think that's I'd consider that like a pipe dream goal.
Okay.
I think we have plenty to build off already with we have 2 world championships. We have major A tournaments in here and in Canada. And I think if we just focus on that more, then I don't really need the Olympics, honestly. Like it's cool, but roller hockey never got to the Olympics.
Yeah.
If when roller hockey grew to, I mean, it surpassed deck hockey in the '80s. So if they can't get in, then I can only imagine the problems that ball hockey will have.
What when it comes to these national events, is there a favorite place that you've gotten to play?
I'd be by. Oh, like now I was thinking. Sorry. Switzerland was very, very um, good. Like they had live bands. They had their stadiums were packed every night, and we had a nice run to the finals in that tournament.
That's awesome.
I like going to Czech Republic too. Czech Republic's probably my favorite country overall. I've been there like 3 or 4 times, and they've always done a good job.
The, I mean, it's amazing. That's one of the things that I've been trying to, like I said, I think for our parents and our program and our players, I don't know if they realize how big the sport is and where the sport can take you. I mean, hockey growing up took me to a lot of places that I probably would have never went to, like Toronto, or I went to DC for a summer tournament, things like that. But I mean, when you're traveling outside the country to go play a sport, that's a lot of fun from a cultural and a team perspective. You know what I mean? So, is there any tournaments coming up that you're looking forward to that you're going to?
Uh, I'm looking for. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I like the Massachusetts tournaments, like the 2 Leominster ones and U.S. Outdoor Ball Hockey Championship. Cool Hockey's supposed to have theirs, which I'm looking forward to. But right now, the Rams haven't really been on the road that much. So, yeah, I like playing more for the Rams than playing for another team.
Gotcha. When it comes to the travel and going across seas and things like that, how do you guys fundraise for this stuff?
We have so I know the WBHF has private donors that'll um, give us X amount, and then individual fundraising. It's really not that hard. Like if you want to fundraise for something, like I think the Super Bowl squares are the biggest hit right now.
Yeah.
Just do your Super Bowl square. Everyone wants to buy because everyone loves to gamble, and when you're fundraising, it makes it that much easier. It doesn't take a lot of money to for some people to fundraise their entire trip. Like they can probably do it with like 2 hours of brain power.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Um, Sort of getting into the men's national teams that you've been on. What's the sort of schedule like? Maybe 4 weeks prior to the event, do you guys get together at a certain location, have team practices, team dinners? What sort of have a camp? What's that like?
Yeah, I think about a month before they always try and have one last one last camp to get all the guys together. It's hard though because it's not a professional sport, so we all have full-time jobs, or some have kids, they have wives, they have other plans. But we try and get in. And then when we're there, we all get along once we're there, so it's easy to bond with the guys, especially because they're all good people too. It's not like you know you're hanging out with I don't know, someone terrible.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And I mean, I know that some of our older players or adult players are sort of interested, in pursuing getting to the level that you're at. Um, how do you get exposure to like a national level coach, whether it's, you know, Corey Hirsch or someone? What do you suggest to those individuals?
Tournaments. Corey's got a good eye on finding talent. But just playing in tournaments, people will eventually notice you, and then you just go from there. Corey scouts out the cool hockey events, his own tournament, and I think WBHF is those events and the Leominster events. And there are some good players that play in like the C League, but they just don't either care enough, or they just want to be their own superstar in their lower league.
Small
But
fish, big pond. Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. um, what about, for you personally, your future goals? What are you looking forward to in the coming years?
Yeah, I'm more looking forward to growing the game now. I thought, I had a great career in my 20s, and I'm still going to be playing competitive hockey. That's not, but I love the China experience. I love trying to just taking on a challenge, and hopefully I go back to China for another year and get that off the ground.
Yeah.
And then from there, maybe another country will need me, or another area. Because Leominster is Leominster. We're always going to be around. We've established, thanks in large parts to Mr. Ray Leclerc and my dad. Yeah, so I'm very interested in growing the game more than anything.
There was something that I think you posted recently that I saw, where you talked about, paying attention to the history of the game.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry if that cut you off a little bit. I think you had posted something about you paying homage to the history of the people that came before us in this game, and Ray Leclerc. I think he had his birthday recently, right? Is he down in Florida or something?
Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago. His wife, Lorraine Leclerc, lives down in Florida, though.
Okay, that's the connection. Okay, and to share this story with you, because I think you probably will appreciate it. I had wonderful grandparents growing up, and my grandmother had this cement backyard, if you will, Italian descent, Bobby, and I'd go over there every day to play street hockey. I had my routine. I would do my homework, eat, watch some cartoons, it was Batman and then something else, and then right outside to play street hockey. And my grandmother, I think, got tired of having to go out and buy the Milik blades, because I would go through those so many times.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it. And I have so many great memories of playing street hockey with my siblings. And, to this day, like you just said, I remember the sticks being this little, and you're trying to stick handle a pink ball, and it's people like that have come before us that I'm grateful to it, because they made my childhood a lot of fun, and now our goal in Gloucester is to make that game bigger and better, here, so thank you for letting me share that story. It's
no worries. That's a good story.
The plastic blades, but even the sticks have come a long way too now. It's like you guys are playing with real composite, graphite sticks. It's not
Yeah.
so I love asking successful people like yourself, in times of great adversity. We got a pandemic going on. It's a little different. We're not being asked to fight in a war. We're asked to sit on our couch, but it's challenging in a lot of ways. what advice do you have for people?
During the pandemic,
Yeah.
stay busy. That's all you can really do. Uh, it'll end at some point. You know, this isn't going to be. It could be actually. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but
Me neither.
stay busy. Try and keep your head up. You know, it's not. This isn't something where like you have a choice. You have to abide by your governors, your president, your state senators. You just have to stay put, stay busy, try and make the best of it. You know, like the usual optimistic sayings, I guess, all apply to this pandemic.
Absolutely. This shall pass. So I want to thank you for joining me today.
No problem.
It's great to have someone from Leominster share their story and their experience. So thank you, Bobby.
No problem. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. It's always good when you get to talk to somebody outside of your circle of like 10 friends and family.
Absolutely. I had a call yesterday with someone that I work with, and he's like, "It's so good to talk to you, just to talk about life instead of business." So thank you. To our Young Legends podcast family and fans, I want to say thank you to Bobby for doing this. For the longest time that I started running Young Legends Street Hockey, I've always used Leominster as sort of a guide and a footprint of what I wanted our program to become and to grow the game as much as possible. And Bobby has a tremendous story, growing up in Leominster. Of course, he was born right into it. But either way, he's cut his own success. He's made his own name for himself, and he's continued to help grow the game all the way to China. That is a tremendous opportunity for someone just to play a game where you can run around on feet, stick handle with a ball, and shoot in a net. And I'm so excited to see the growth of where this game can take us. And so I'm sure if you ever have any questions, you can reach out to Bobby. And just to ask him one more time, Bobby, if anybody needs to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
Social media. I'm everywhere. I don't really want to give my phone number out because then you might get a random person to message you. And but yeah, I'm on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's yeah.
And if you have questions about growing the game, he's a guy to follow for sure. Thank you for tuning in for this week's podcast. Again, I thank you, Bobby, and everybody. Stay safe, take care, and as always, be healthy.
Perfect.